Hello, everybody. I'm Meso,
I'm Eljay.
and streaming to you from a golden beach, this is Nack and Jay. Hello, once again. We have returned. How are you doing, LJ?
I was fine right up until we tried to start. Then I got irritated.
Did it give you grief?
Yes, of course it did. Friggin' course it did.
It seems like every week there's a new, kerfluffle
Oh
that
no,
goes on.
sometimes we're fine. Sometimes it's totally fine and it works flawlessly and we're absolutely hunky-dory. And then sometimes it isn't. And I don't know why. I thought I had it all figured out, but I guess I don't.
It's, yeah, it seems to be an ever-evolving process.
It's
But...
I don't know if it's OBS that is screwing up or if it's YouTube. I am prone to suggest it's YouTube because YouTube is...
It does seem to be the more prevalent case of screw-ups.
Yeah, also I think the thumbnail's all goofed again, but I don't know.
I'll look into it while you hit us with the plugs.
Okay, and then I'm also going to do a retraction from last week's episode, which stirred up a bunch of controversy. This is going to be fun. Plugs. So, if you're just joining us, make sure to head on over to the TTV message boards at board.ttvchannel.com. We have a bunch of fun stuff happening there. You just need to be 13 years or older and read our rules. And you can join in on the fun. We are currently just about to wrap up the first entry period for the first canonization contest for Toa Helrix. It ends on, I believe, the 22nd, something like that.
Oh, and... dang, really? Only 4 more days? I didn't even know.
Dude.
I forgot.
Yeah, no, it's almost done. And yeah, so it ends on June 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We're currently up to around 74 entries right now. It's pretty fantastic. So definitely go check that out. Additionally, our Patreon, patreon.com/ttvchannel. You can join our Discord server. Additionally, you can join our Minecraft server on the island of Matanui and Voyanui with more to come. That's just as low as $1 a month, and you can join in the festivities. Finally, Twitter at the TTV channel, at Mesonak, and at the Eljay Johnson, JOHNSEN. All right.
What is your attraction?
Well, everyone, last week's episode, some of the things that Meso and I said, more specifically me, stirred up a little bit of controversy in the community.
It is definitely all your fault.
As is usual. That's all right. And I feel it's only appropriate that I offer a retraction for one of the remarks that I made. Let me just type something.
Thank you, Eljay, for being mature.
Thank you.
And
being
willing to admit when you're wrong.
Thank you. So, last week I made a comparison to some individuals who went unnamed and would have been entirely anonymous had they not drawn attention to themselves, as usual. And it was an inappropriate comparison, because I compared them to 13-year-olds. And I would like to formally and sincerely apologize to all 13-year-olds that I've disrespected with that comparison. It was rude. It was inaccurate. I shouldn't have done that. Our minimum age limit on the message boards is 13. Like, we obviously know plenty of mature and respectable 13-year-olds. And that was uncalled for. I didn't need to say that about 13-year-olds and compare them to people who are very obviously well below that age mentally.
Dude, when I was 13, I was starting the TTV podcast.
Yeah.
13-year-olds are children.
Exactly. So, that being the case, toddlers aren't going to listen to this. So I would like to rescind the 13-year-old comparison and instead replace it with that of toddlers. So if you go back and listen to that segment and I say 13-year-olds, just mentally replace with toddlers and we're all good.
Dude, if only this was Vessel, we could replace it. We just re-edit the audio.
Exactly, we would be fine. So I felt it was it was important that I make that clarification before we went any further. So,
Yes, most assuredly.
and that's it.
Um,
That's all I really wanted to say. And as far as that's concerned, it's behind us, and I have no more to add.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Respect. Thank you, Elder.
Yeah, no problem. I do what I
Now,
can.
yeah, listen, don't we all?
Hmm. Don't we all?
All right. So, this week we're going to be taking a break from our usual multifaceted conversations about things with like multiple different points of view and like introspective analysis and like anecdotes and all this stuff, and we're gonna take a look at something that's for a change I think most people would probably agree with.
That's
Not
my
everybody.
understanding. My understanding is this is a fairly agreeable sentence.
Yeah, not everybody, and the minutia of that will probably lend to some discussion. But this is one of those things about Bionicle that isn't really that controversial. That being the year of Bionicle 2005, also known as Web of Shadows for the movie, also known as the Vizirac year, also known as Pointless Filler year. The list goes on. Year of many names. It kind of came up last week in conversation. I forget how or why it was relevant, but we were kind of like, we could make a full episode about this. We could talk about '05 because there is a lot to discuss with it. It's not as if nothing happened. Case in point, if I were to talk about Bionicle 2010 and we tried to do a podcast about that, it would basically boil down to the ending only because it was such a brief year. If we try to talk about Bionicle 2001, it's going to boil down to basically Monog, because the story in the comics and such was it's discussion worthy, but at the end of the day, it boils down to the Toa did this, they had a character arc, they fought Makuta, it was over. '05 is interesting because its main story was conveyed through a movie. It did have a few other things to it, like, some comics, some books, a movie novelization. But the thing that sets '05 apart from a lot of other years about Bionicle is that most people don't like it. Most people who I've spoken to, at least, most vocal people in the community, it typically goes like this, right? When you think of years of Bionicle that are disliked, the one that instantly springs to my mind is 2009. 2009 is like the most controversial year because it kind of had to awkwardly segue into the ending. It cut out like 90% of the characters we knew and loved. All new cast, all new planet. But right below that, usually, is '05. And that's interesting because '05 is part of the first era of Bionicle. It has nothing to do with the ending. Has nothing to do with any kind of a reboot like with the Anika or whatever. This is firmly in the original mythos, the movie trilogy, the thing that most people commonly associate with the early years of Bionicle. And it's controversial for a lot of reasons, and we're gonna get into those. But I guess to start with, Elge, what do you think about '05? Because I know you don't hate it because you like pretty much everything Bionicle related. But what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, you were correct. 2005 is a very weird year for me, especially since that's when I joined the Bionicle community. Like at this point, it's I've very well established it's September 1st, 2005 when I made an account on BZ Power, which is my first proper entrance. So 2005 is interesting because I remember being involved in the community in the sense that I'm actively there and I get to see all the reception. I remember being so excited for the Vizirac, like those are, oh gosh, the Vizirac were going to be so cool, and obviously wanting to get Matau, and really looking forward to the Hordika, and then finding out about the Rahaga and going, why? And so I like aspects of 2005 because I was there, but 2005 to me is this really weird amorphous blob. Like it's this really blurry section of Bionicle where some things happen, but the things that happened in 2005 that you really remember are the movie and Time Trap.
Yeah.
Like, those are the
That's
big ones. And maybe Mavra. Like, maybe you remember Mavra.
Like, where do the comics and the non-Web of Shadows retelling books, like, where do they rank in your mind as far as, like, Bionicle stories?
I mean, I barely remember
Are
them.
they super...
I barely remember any of them. Because the way it works, you have... So 2005 starts off, and you have Maze of Shadows. The book, the game, etc. It's literally just the book and the game. And the Toa Metru, they've gone to Matanui. They're like, hey, this place is pretty sweet. Let's make our first steer here. And then they go back for the other Matoran. So they leave some on the beach, and then they go back. And then they find all these weird Rahi and Mavra. Oh, Mavra was... okay, BA5, 2004. Never mind. Dang, the 2005 has even less. So they go and they find Karzani the plant, the one of 3 Karzanis that you're going to end up having to remember. Karzani the plant, Karzani the person, and Karzani the location. And so you have Karzani the plant, and he gives you some kind of information on Makuta, and the Toa go on an adventure, and the adventure basically ends with Karzani the plant just up and dying.
Real talk. Can we say how stupid that is? But there was a Karzani plant. I don't know if I've ever talked about it, like, in a podcast atmosphere, but it's really dumb.
We get a little bit of information about energized protodermis and BA6. Oh, was this the one with the Karzani plant? December 2004, close enough. We're getting into...
Wow, so 5 has even less.
We're getting enough into 2005 story. This is fine. So they head back, and they hit the island of Metanui again. And they crash land, and everything is changed. They've been gone for, I'm not sure how long, maybe like a week, 2 weeks. It's not clear. And just everything is a complete mess. There are Rahi everywhere. Everything's covered in green webs, and there's fog. And it's a total mess. And they get there, and it just goes downhill from there. Because what I remember from 2005 is specifically the film, and that just encompasses the whole year. Vakama kind of sort of looking through Tametru, and then finding the discs and finding out, oh, snap, we weren't supposed to be Toa. But then later learning, oh, snap, we were supposed to be Toa. And then Time Trap. So it's just a blur.
A lot of the extra stuff that was there to flesh out the year kind of blurs together and is generally unmemorable. Like, I will be the first to say that I reread Bionicle very recently, and I remember basically none of the books for 05 and none of the comics for 05.
Yeah.
Like, they do not stick out in your mind whatsoever.
No.
To me.
No, it's just... It's because it's all piddly adventures. There isn't much of an end goal to any of those adventures. Because I remember from the comics, you have... Oh, shoot. Do I have any of the comics right next to me? Okay, yes, I do.
Perfect.
So, fun fact, I bought a bunch of comics, which I usually do every year to give away at Brick Fair. And then Brick Fair got canceled, so I just have a bunch of extra comics lying to my left.
Well, that'll work. That'll work for next year.
All right. Okay, I have... Oh, geez, I think I have all of 05.
That's perfect.
Nice. So it's like, you got the first comic, the Toa Metru arrive, it's the beginning of the movie, and then they all get friggin' cocooned. So we're in movie material. And then...
I love it.
let me see. They are rescued by the Rahaga, and then you see Rudak at the end. That's your first comic, right? So we've started off with movie content. Second comic. You're seeing the Vakama, Anawa, and their Rahaga fighting some Vizorak. Then you see Sidorak. And then you see Raruni telling Mata about Kitangu. And then you see Nokama flipping out. She's just flipping out and like, I'm a Rahi. No, it's okay. You're a Toa. But now you're a Rahi, too. And you see Nuju. And he's badgering Koalas about his bird speak. And then they find a Kagurok. Comic. No, I don't have all the comics. Alright, we're skipping. We're skipping to the aftermath of the Kagurok fight.
Yeah.
Where Vakama and Vakama and Anawa are digging the other two out of the rubble. Nokama and Matau still on their adventure. They've managed to sneak into the Visorak stronghold of sorts. They're in the Colosseum. Rudaka is there. And it's like, oh no, the machine is going to get thrown into the furnace. Jump to the next comic. And we're still getting more backstory and exposition. And Vakama's freaking out. Matau just blows up the friggin' thing. And now they're trapped somewhere. And then they get out. Colosseum. Let me see. A little bit of Rahaga back. Well, we get introduced to the Brotherhood of Makuta. And the Rahaga being a pain to them. And then we see Sidorak and Rudaka talking. And it says, find out the conclusion in the movie. And then we get a teaser for 2006.
That's the worst. I hate that. Like, I hate it when the written material is forced to not overlap with the movie. I get it. I understand how they don't want to like spoil what happens, but it just makes it feel incomplete. And I don't like that.
Yeah.
So fair enough. Like at that point, that's the point proven right there. I don't remember any of that.
Oh, see, I remember it, but it doesn't amount to anything. Like nothing actually happens. Like they just they walk around, they talk, and that's really about it through those comics. Like Matau and Nokama get stuck in close proximity to Rudaka, and that amounts to literally nothing. The Toa don't even reassemble by the end of the comic run. Like, that's it. They walk around.
Real quick, we have a super chat from Bionicle Lives. This is really cool. Karzani is all three kinds of noun: person, place, and thing.
Okay, not gonna lie, that is actually kind of cool. That, yeah, no, that is actually kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
I dig it.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. I'd never noticed that before. That's cool.
All right.
So, yeah, comics amount to basically nothing. The books are basically the comics that are just fleshed out a little better. And that just leaves the movie.
And the movie is so wonderfully controversial. It's great. I love talking about the movie because here's a little fun fact is I actually like the concept for 05, like the idea. Having one of the Toa go rogue, basically, is unique. None of the other years try to tackle anything like that. Except, I guess, kind of Mask of Light a little bit when Tahu gets infected. But it's not the same thing. Because that wasn't a conscious choice. But it's commonly known knowledge that Greg did not want it to be Vakama. He wanted it to be Matau. That's commonly known. And that's the number one criticism of 05 is it doesn't make sense for Vakama to be the one to go bad. But my thing has and will always be, I just think the movie did it horribly. You can make that work, but in order to make that work, you need an internal monologue. And that's where the novelization comes in, because Greg, in my opinion, was able to spin a compelling reason and a compelling, I guess, inner turmoil to make Vakama go down that path. That being his insecurities and fears about living up to the legacy of Lekon, basically. A
Hmm.
constant spiral of like feeling like he's not good enough, that he's going to let everybody down, which can then turn into like paranoia when you think that everybody else sees you that way, the way that you're seeing yourself that way. It's done well in the book. What isn't done well is what comes after that, which is the whole I'm going to kill my friends thing. There's really no way you can salvage that to make that palatable, in my opinion. But the way it was done could have been okay, but the movie just does it horribly. They decide to do this thing where they immediately have Vakama like right out the gate acting all like haughty and full of himself, like he's the tough
Hmm.
guy leader, which doesn't really work. I don't recall that being how he was in Legends of Metro.
No, it wasn't, because he was full of doubts. He had a major self-confidence issue throughout the entire film. And then that got mostly resolved toward the end when he realized, well, he doesn't need to be this ultra capable Toa. You know, he's got friends for that to help him out and fill in his gaps. It's fine. And then he just immediately unlearns that in the next movie.
He unlearns it just in time to make contrived drama happen as a result of that. And that is, in my opinion, the reason why it fails. The biggest reason why Y05 fails and why the Vakama thing does not really work is because it doesn't need to exist. It very much felt like an unnecessary extension of a finished story, which, from all reports, is what O5 was. I forget who said this, so I don't exactly have a source. It may have been Greg, it may have been even Christian Faber of the Faber files, but I recall reading somewhere that O5 was not planned from the start and that it was only created because they didn't want to abandon the location of Metru Nui after just 1 year.
Oh, yeah. It
They
would have
felt
been
like it would
silly
be
to
a
do
waste.
so.
Yeah, but at that point, you question, well, if that is the logic, which I agree with, you should not create a whole new location and flesh it out to the degree they did, only to use it for 1 year. Then why didn't they plan for a multi-year story instead of ad-libbing a second year, which doesn't even work narratively? Like, there could have been any number of ways they could have extended the story of Metro Nui to work more naturally, but instead they quite literally they conclude it in the second movie. It's over, and then visually they have to go back and make this weird like interquel thing where Web of Shadows takes place before the end of Legends of Metro Nui, but after the climax of Legends of Metro Nui. Like, it does not really make much sense there. And then narratively, they undo the character arc that Vakama went through just so they can put him in a weird new one that still doesn't even really make sense. Like, say what you will about '06 and '07, where they, didn't flesh out their islands well enough. But the thing that they did was they knew they were only going to be on an island for 1 year. So they planned their story to last for a year in that location and then move on. They did not, go through so much trouble to create a fully fleshed out world to where they then felt obligated to awkwardly prolong the story that they wanted to tell just to get the most out of that location. But that's what happened with Metro Nui. And it really shows because you could chop out '05 completely. And the only things that would be affected would be the story serials later on, which had to try to shoehorn in characters from Metro Nui in a way that they could show up again. But they really did not need to be in the story at all, and their roles could have been slotted by other people.
Hmm.
But segue aside, to tie it back to Vakama, the reason his arc doesn't make sense is because it was already concluded.
Yeah.
The
It
book
was
does
done.
a way of the book does a way of downplaying his like arrogance. He still has it a little bit, but because you have the internal monologue, it's very clear that he's just like doing it for, to trying to fake it till he makes it, you know? He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to be tough to get them through the situation. But it's clear that he's carrying along from the last movie. But when you don't have that internal monologue, you only see what he says, and what he says is stupid.
Yeah. No, it's awfully contrived.
Explain, because I think you also share his opinion that it should have been Matau.
Mm-hmm.
Like, explain that perspective for the audience who may or may not have heard that before.
Yeah. So Greg Farshti has notably been of the opinion that instead of Vakama switching and turning evil, it should have been Matau. Because Matau, he's a vain person. He was always about being a Toa for the glory and the glamour. Not necessarily because, oh, I want to save everyone. Nah, I'm a Toa, and that's cool. And so that vanity, I think it does a good job of influencing a decision for him to go over to the dark side. And I think that if you take all of Vakama's dialogue and you switch it over to Matau, and you take all of Matau's dialogue from the final fight and you switch it over to Vakama, doesn't that just fit? It fulfills Vakama as a character much better than it does Matau. Because they both... Matau learns the same lesson, but it also helps reinforce that Vakama has seen through his character arc, and it solidifies him as living up to the expectations that have been placed upon him. It improves Vakama as a character, and it also helps flesh out that side of Matau. That would obviously be enhanced because he's got Hordika venom running through his veins.
Yeah, it would actually continue the last movie instead of undoing it.
Exactly, and that's the point of a sequel. It needs to be to continue. So I just think that
Here's my thing. I never 100% subscribe to the logic, not because it isn't true. I do think it would be better for it to be Matau. It's just the fundamental like premise of '05. It goes off the rails a bit too much for me to ever get behind, because any of the Toa I could see making a deal with their enemies in that state of mind to try to help, you know, get them out of the situation they're in, rather than try to necessarily fight, trying like diplomacy or getting suckered in. Any of them, I think, could be candidates for that if you stretched it out. What I can never see any of them doing is going off the rails like Fakama does, to the point where he's full on, I'm going to be the king of the spiders. I'm going to rule everybody, and you guys are my enemies, and I'm going to kill you now.
yeah, I'm better.
Like,
I'm stronger alone with my large Vizirac army.
It's the most laughable for Vakama, but it would still be bad even if it was Matau.
Yeah.
Of course, the explanation given for that is Hordika venom, because, like you said, it's supposed to amplify what they're feeling to levels that like we're not supposed to relate to, because it's a mutation. Like they're not themselves; they're mentally unwell. The problem with that is when you throw that into the story and you say like these guys are basically crazy, or they're teetering on the verge. They could basically do anything. There's no point in even having established characterization anymore, because like basically all the characterization and rules and dynamics basically go out the window, if you know what I mean. Like when you have the catch-all excuse of they're just crazy, you're barely even telling a story anymore. Like Tahu's poisoning in Mask of Light was very brief. It was resolved pretty quickly, and it was not the core plot of the movie.
Yeah.
He got mad for a bit. He tried to attack people. He got stopped. He calmed down. That's it. But when you start to get into that being the plot and making decisions and us trying to like empathize with him. I could talk to you guys all day about why it may or may not make sense in the novelization for Vakama to feel this way because of X character and Y character and Z influence. But at the end of the day, anybody who disagrees with me or even agrees with me in a different way could just hand wave it and be like, it's just the Hordika venom making him do these things. And I wouldn't really have a counter for that because it might be. That doesn't mean it's an interesting story because I like to relate to my protagonists. I like to get where they're coming from because it helps me understand the story.
Yeah. Also,
and as Sakota points out, half of them are basically unaffected by it.
Yeah.
Go on.
Couple of quick things from the YouTube chat. We did get a super chat from Goji King 54, who gave us $5. Thank you very, very much. Who had this to say? 05 has, but I can't beat him myself, and time trap in its story, and that in and of itself is something. Arguably both the best and the worst story-wise. The other thing, both of these next two things come from Gearbricks, who says, A, 2005 could have been better if it covered the Toa Nuva traveling to Voyanui instead of the whole Hordika thing IMO, which I want to touch on in a sec. And also, couldn't Greg have changed Vakama's role in 2005 over to Matau since he's basically the head of the story department? This tips me off that you might be a newer viewer, so first, welcome. However, we've well established through interviews with Mr. Farshti, he's said this on my show, he said this on the TTV message boards, he was not the head of the story team. No, basically, no, at one point, never, not at all, not once. The head of the story team from 2001 to 2005 was Bob Thompson. And during 2005, he was the head of the story team. And I can tell you, Greg was absolutely overruled because you know who Bob Thompson's favorite hero character is?
No.
Matau. So it's
forgot about that.
Yep, it's fairly evident. And I mean, yeah, so that's that. For the 2006 thing, I agree and I disagree. I think that 2005 should have focused on the Toa Nuva. Not going to Metro Nui, or Voyanui, though, going to Metro Nui. Because wouldn't it make more sense if the Toa Nuva went to Metro Nui and everything was still a mess and they got infected?
Yeah.
That way, so you have 2005 be about something else. You have 2004 as your introductory. You have 2005 being something else, and you have 2006 being about the Toa Nuva and all the Matanui inhabitants returning to Metro Nui. That way you have your 3 years of fleshing everything out and looking into everything and whatnot, and then you can move on after that.
As weird as it is to say, I would have definitely preferred Nuva Hordika instead of Metro Hordika.
I would have been interested. So, I don't know.
I think the purpose it would have served is keeping the protagonists consistent. That would have not only solved the weird stuff with 05 about undoing the last movie, but it would also give the Nuva that one extra year of relevancy that I've always said they needed because they're kind of out of the story for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of like peppering them in to be like, hey, these guys are still the protagonists. Don't forget about them. Instead of 4 years without them basically featuring at all. And also, there's a much, much, much better justification to have Metro Nui be in ruins, basically. After that much amount of time, instead of right after 2004 IMO. Like, it's not that there wasn't enough time for the Vizirac to take over, like, canonically, because there was, how it is. It's more from a viewer perspective, like, having that many years be in between, like, in the story. It makes it easier for me to be like, oh, that makes sense, that after so many years, the place would have decayed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like everybody exploring it at the same time, maybe the Matoran get recaptured by the Vizorak because they knock out the Toa so easily. They just go around and like scoop everybody up
Mm-hmm.
instead of having to go back and save people who they didn't bring before in the boats because there weren't enough boats. The whole thing is contrived as it is. That would have made it much more organic because the reason I think it should stay in Metru Nui is because that still wouldn't defeat their problem, which would be they wanted to use Metru Nui for more than 1 year.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. And then
if it was about the journey to Voyan Nui, it would be just another irrelevant side story on some crazy alternate island that's maybe like a stopgap that wouldn't really tie into anything.
yeah, no, exactly. So it, I don't know. I just think that works out a whole lot better. You have you hit all of the rungs. You check all the boxes, and it works. So
Yeah.
as for what we have here, what did you want to discuss next? Because I know exactly what I was thinking of.
I had a thought, and now I've lost it. But so you go with what you're thinking of.
So let's talk about the big bads,
Yes.
the antagonists for the year. I want to specific like we'll talk about all of them, both of them, I guess. But I specifically want to discuss Sidorak.
He's the most controversial one.
Mm-hmm. He suffers from Sidorak syndrome. Tuma also suffers from Sidorak syndrome. Sidorak syndrome is when you have a character that is well established in every medium and differs entirely when they get to the film for that year. And other notable characters that suffer from Sidorak syndrome would be General Grievous from Star Wars. Well established up until he hits the film, and he's a completely different character. Yeah, Sakota, all the scrawl. Artemis Fowl, every character in that movie.
F. I want to cry. That's all I'll say on that.
So, he is a completely different character. In the books, in the novels, and in the comic, he is a well-established commander. He leads his troops. He's a reasonable tactician. He has no issue being the commander, being in charge. He's been that way for a while. He's conquered all of these different islands. He's respected. You know, he's not a weak character. He's conniving. He's intimidating. In the film, it's a complete and total sham. But I can't do this myself. I will let you have the final blow. Like, he is a complete wimp. He just does not instill respect, only in the Vizorak, and even then, it's completely partial. He has no interest in being competent whatsoever, doing things on his own. He is feeble. He is weak. And
He's played up as a joke to the audience. Like there are points where he's walking along, like talking to Vakama, and Vakama's rolling his eyes and just listening to the old man talk, basically.
Yeah, like there's no respect.
Like, we as an audience are supposed to sympathize with Vakama and be like, oh yeah, it'd be so annoying if he was talking to me.
Yeah,
like he's a joke character.
Yeah, like listen to this. This is the description of Sidorak from Ga'aki from Challenge of the Hordiga. It's Bionicle Adventures 8. The Who is Sidorak, king of the Vizorak hordes, a good tactician, brutal. His answer to everything is overwhelming force. Like, would you describe the guy we saw in the film as a good tactician, brutal, and his answer to everything is overwhelming force?
Not even close.
Like, what?
It completely falls apart. And that just adds further to that feeling of like book to movie disparity. Like it's very difficult for me to look at '05 as like a cohesive story across its various forms of media because too much of it differs. Like you basically have to discount the movie, and the movie is supposed to be your centerpiece, but it's the worst thing about the year. Like take out the movie completely. Just even read the novelization, which still does Sidorak badly, but less so. And you have cool villains, and Vakama's arc kind of makes a little bit more sense. But you throw the movie in, and everything just kind of falls apart in multiple ways. And
Yeah.
it's really not good when you both your villains and your protagonists aren't written well.
Yeah. No, it's disappointing because you have
How about
nothing really to
Rudaka?
latch into.
How
Rudaka,
do you think Rudaka was handled?
fine. Rudaka is actually fairly consistent throughout basically everything. She's conniving, she's manipulative, she's a backstabber, two-faced, two-timing agent of whomever she aligns with to get an edge, an advantage. You know, there's really nothing in either film nor written adaptation that differs. So Rudaka's fine. I think she is a fairly serviceable villain for the year of 2005. So
The one thing that would be hard to do, like, is because the whole underlying point about '05, the only thing that it contributes is explaining how Makuta got from '04 to '01, how he was freed from the Toa seal. So if you change that to the Nuva, I guess you'd have to find a different way to defeat Makuta in '04. Maybe like drive him off instead of seal him up, which I guess could be done. But that's the undercurrent of '05 is that Rudaka just wants to free Makuta. Correct me if I'm like I forget why did she care so much? Did we ever get like some introspection into her that I'm just forgetting about as to why she was like fascinated and bordering on being in love with Makuta?
hey, that's not canon. You get that.
That's how I always interpreted it.
Let me double check.
Like, I guess a more concise way to put what I'm asking is, what connection did Rudaka have with the Brotherhood of Makuta, if any?
Rudaka eventually became affiliated with the Brotherhood of Makuta, providing such aid as contributing her Rotuka power to the creation of Voparak. When the Toahaga raided the Destral fortress, Rahaga, they still escaped. Sidorak took credit for this and was given position of King of the Vizorak. He named Rudaka as Viceroy of the Vizorak, hoping to make her queen in an alliance that would grant him status in Zia.
All right.
They were later summoned telepathically by Pterodax, who had been defeated by the Toa-Metru. When the Vizorak invaded Metru Nui, Rudaka carved out a piece of the Toa seal around Pterodax.
Okay.
So it was kind of she was already affiliated with the Brotherhood, and then she and Sidorak had been summoned there anyway. So her end goal was always get Pterodax out.
I guess that makes sense enough. I like this one comment from Star Destroyer. She stroked and spoke to the red crystal seal in a very platonic way. Definitely.
Absolutely. Listen, eat your non-canon and like it.
Oh, man, I don't know. I don't like it.
Too bad.
She was all right. Like, it's just a weird year because it walks both lines of being bad. Like, it has problems, like we've discussed, with Vakama and with Sidorak, and with a lot of the content being not the best, like the comics and the books and whatnot. But the biggest sin for me is that a lot of it just feels irrelevant. Like I said before, you could just cut it out and you wouldn't really lose much except for Makuta. And I stand by that because I'm thinking of what exactly it introduces that comes up later. And it's basically just the Toahaga who only show up in that one story serial whose name escapes me, where they go and fight the Mari and then, go on an adventure with Zaktan. And, well, I guess Kitangu briefly shows up in Time Trap, but that's the same year, so that barely counts. And the Vizorak as like a fighting force that can be used later. But the Brotherhood of Makuta already has an army with Rakshi and Makuta and their other forces. So the addition of another army almost feels a little redundant. Like the only thing good about 05 unilaterally that pretty much nobody has an issue with is Time Trap.
Mm-hmm.
Time Trap is awesome.
Yeah.
Time Trap's like the best Bionicle story for a lot of people. And it is responsible for, maybe not introducing the Brotherhood of Makuta, but I think we get it name dropped for like the one of the first times aside from those comics you mentioned.
Yeah, we had him in the comics. I think we would have had him in the books too, because the comics and the books have some overlap.
Yeah.
I think
and then the Dark Hunters.
Yeah, so I think 2005, what it does well is it at least helps. It helps add to the world. We had a lot of different ways that it did that. Like, that is a good thing inherently. I'm trying to get a picture up. Hang on. There we go. Time Trap. So, I mean, I do like that we had the Rahi guide and the Dark Hunter guide. I think the Dark Hunters are a good thing because you have factions in the world and there's a conflict with them. Like, it adds interest and not culture, world building. Like, there's something there that's happening. There's a history. Like,
yeah.
You have factions. I like that. However, that comes with its own downsides. Like you said, it is a bunch of different characters that are just introduced and dumped in.
I mean, I think it's a very clunkily handled with the Haga because they're very irrelevant characters that never really do anything worth writing home about. Like it almost to me feels like that story serial with them was just created so they had something to do in the story, not because it was a story that needed to be told that fit their characters. But with the Dark Hunters, I'm a bit more forgiving, even though they do stockpile on the characters, because it's not necessarily about any one Dark Hunter being super relevant besides the Shadowed one. It's about the organization, and it's about where that serves in the world, which ties into the next year with the Paraka, which adds to their backstory. And it has a narrative flow that is lacking from the rest of the year. All the Dark Hunter stuff and all the Time Trap stuff, that is paid off. So I suppose I do have to credit the Dark Hunters to 05. I do have to do that. So fair enough. I do like them. Sakota says, can we talk about the Haga maybe being intended to be Doom and Nadiki? Duma. I forgot about that.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So, Akmu, at one point, there was discussion about him being a Shadow Toe in 2008. And a lot of people were like, oh, he was going to be the Shadow Toe, and then they made it Takanuva. I think Greg has re-clarified. They kind of tossed the idea around for a little bit. And are like, nah. And went with Takanuva, which I think was the wiser option. Because it gave us all of the Toanuva their members and honorary members again for a full year. We know for darn sure that Nadiki and Toa Duma were well past the, hey, maybe we should make these characters stage. Because it is intrinsic in their design. Like, through and through, they are Duma and Toa Nadiki. Down to the chest piece and the mask. Like, oh gosh, what is it? The Pekui? No, it's not the Pekui. That is Norix. The Qualsi. Thank you. The Qualsi is literally just a Vaki head. That's it. That's all it is. It's a Vaki head as a mask. It is, and it works
really well as an interpretation of that.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But it's
that's why I hate that Nadiki canonically has a Vol attack.
Yep, he has a Vol attack, and I know some people were really hoping that for the Nadiki contest we might be running, we were gonna have his Qualsi be an option. You can make a mock with the Qualsi; it's totally fine. The final artwork is gonna need to have a Vol attack. I'm sorry.
Sadly.
So, and Gresh 113 adds, masks can take any shape. This is 100% correct. But sorry, guys. Unless Greg absolutely says it's a Qualsi-shaped Vol attack, it's gonna be a Vol attack. If someone wants to ask him, go for it. But if he wears...
get him to confirm that, we could use that.
Yeah.
But he hasn't yet.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, fun fact, the Vol attack is green. Oh, wait. No one likes Cherry. Liar. Says Nupar recognizes his Vol attack from the description of the Nadikis. Does he recognize the shape or the power, though?
I forget.
If you can find that quote, that'd be awesome. If not, don't worry about it. Anyway, real quick, Goji King 54 donates another $5 super chat, who says, "What if G2 ended with their half of Vahi connecting to O5 Vahi across time, since they are both messing with time and retcon Valama's role to Matau?"
I love it. That's a great idea.
I'm not touching that with a 25-foot pole.
The third year of G2 we all needed was 05 Redux. While we're at it, get Christian Faber on it with his mocap suit, and he can fix their colors.
Oh my gosh, just stop it. Stop it. So.
Hashtag BioBible.
Thank you. So yeah.
That's kind of the 05 and where we're at.
Yeah. There's not much more I can really add right now. Well, wait, no. Hang on, everything's frozen.
Oh. I like Time Trap.
There we go, I'm back.
Oh, hey.
Sorry.
Did you hear me?
I like Time Trap. That's what I heard.
Yeah, there are aspects about 05 that I like. I like Time Trap. I like Vakama and Matau's talk while they're fighting. And I like the guidebooks. And that's about it.
See, that's the thing. So Time Trap, let's talk about that a little bit also because I have the picture up before we talk about the sets for just a smidge. Time Trap almost single-handedly saves 2005 because it does a few important things, but it also does one thing that is criminally difficult to work in with everything else. And also is kind of an open thread. What Time Trap does great is it gives us some really good interconnection with a lot of the different factions. It helps explain away a couple of things that were set up and established in 2005. It does a really good job closing those threads. And it really, really it fleshes out Pterodax as a character. Like before then, we really didn't have a whole lot for him, but it substantially gave us things to work with. So, overall, that book is really well written, and it's really good. However, it does one thing wrong, and that is everything having to do with Krakoa.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was in that book.
He was in that book. That is his first appearance. And unfortunately, it doesn't have anything to do with Krakoa himself. It just has to do with the method of which Vakama speaks to him. No, it's not his only speaking role. He showed up later in serials. The way...
So yeah, give everybody a rundown of this problem.
So, Vakama is trapped in an illusion that Pterodax has crafted to try and find the location of the Vahi. And through that, Vakama gets affixed to his face a creature that, as of now, has no canon name. It is quick. You know what I'm trying to say.
Colloquially.
Thank you. As the Kratana, or Kranata, I think it is.
I love my katana.
What is the name, Swart?
I think it's katana.
Kratana, thank you. Kratana, thank you. And that's a combination of Krata or Krana, because the creature looks like a cross between the two.
Freaking weird.
And so what this thing does is it attaches to someone's face, and it has the natural ability to give others visions of the future and the past. And it was used in the series twice. Once in Time Trap, and once in one of the best books, I feel, from 2008, Swamp of Secrets. In Swamp of Secrets, it was used to look at the past, which I think is actually very easy enough to explain away. It's a recording device, right? Like, it records things. However, how do you get it to see the future? Because it was talking to Krakoa, who is in the future under siege at a base, and he gave Vakama a mission. He gave him a mission that he would have to send a Toa team who would just absolutely have a difficult time in life. He would have to send them on a nigh impossible mission. And that Toa team, as we later learn, gosh dang it, why am I not typing that properly? Are the Toa Nika. He says they will brave the lightning, they will walk through the fire, they will stare into the eyes of evil, and if they waver even once, they will die. And Vakama's like, let me guess, I have to lead them. No, you will have to send them on that quest. And he doesn't. You have this whole thing. It's setting up this great big Toa team, and Vakama has to send them on their way. And it's Nokama. She sends them on their way. And Vakama actually tries to inhibit their progress. He's like, no, don't leave. Nokama, psst, you guys should probably leave. And they leave. So it amounted to basically nothing. And it also gave us the problem of this Kratana somehow displaying the future. And that's a bit of an issue.
Look, I love my mysterious objects that can do whatever the plot demands of them as much as the next guy. But usually they're used out of necessity. Like a device like this, I hesitate to call it a Deus Ex Machina because it doesn't really resolve the story, but a plot device like this, what I find in stories is often used out of necessity, like spoilers from Mass Effect 3. But in Mass Effect 3, you have the Crucible, which was their big plan to destroy the Reapers, and they were like, oh, we're going to use the Crucible. It's this ancient artifact. Nobody knows what it does, but if we can build it, it'll do something, and it'll help us win. They use it because presumably the writers couldn't figure out how to end the story without introducing some mystical device to make sense. But this feels very unnecessary of a thing to include. And I could forgive it more if it was the kind of thing to where Greg was writing a story in, let's say, 2002, and he wrote this in, and then later in, I don't know, 2009, it came time to pay it off, and he forgot some of the details, so he made the wrong person, do it. He'd be like, well, it's been 7 years. I just was kind of making it up as I went along. I got it wrong. Big deal. But it was the very next thing. Like it was the next book. Right after Time Trap.
Yeah.
So how 4 months in between where it says you make up this unnecessary plot device that you don't need to have a future telling vision from some random Toa who's never really important in the story after this anyway. Like he shows up. It's not a huge deal. To tell Vakama a vision or give Vakama like some facts of the future which don't end up coming true. The only way it could be explained is if it was ever stated that Vakama was intentionally not fulfilling the vision, or Kukua's words, because he didn't want to send more people to their deaths. Like he was walking, he was spitting in the face of prophecy, basically. But because we lose Vakama as a point of reference for the audience in 06, and we don't hear his internal thoughts anymore, nobody can say that's the case, and I don't know if Greg's ever spoken about it one way or the other.
Has he spoken about which one?
About Vakama not being the one to send them on the quest and trying to inhibit them.
Okay, I don't know.
Because I'm like, it could very easily be said to be like, yeah, he didn't want more people to die, so he didn't listen to Kukua's vision. But unless that's ever been stated, you can't really assume that.
Yeah.
No one likes Cherry updated. Said I was wrong. Nuparu did say it matched the effect of Nariki's mask.
Okay. That's what I thought. I didn't mean to call you out. I was just... I kind of suspected, because I haven't read it in a while. It seemed like one of those things that... Because they didn't know what the mask was. But if they'd heard stories of Nadiki, which we do have, he uses the mask before it appeared in 2007, then that would line up.
I mean, that works if we want to get the Kowalski-shaped Volatak thing to see if Greg will approve that. I beseech all of you.
We'll
make
talk.
Things a whole...
I mean, if someone wants to ask him, he hasn't been on the message boards since LEGO put in a bunch of restrictions pertaining to COVID. So I feel like that's kind of part of why. However, that's fine because we reach out to him via email anyway. So if nobody asks him, or if he doesn't respond to that question, we'll just ask him right as we're about to start the Nadiki contest if it happens. So no, you're good. You're good. It's important to clarify. Okay.
So that's the thing about the vision. It's weird, but it could be explained. It's just hard because we lose Vakama as a point of internal monologue. Yeah. So we don't see his thoughts anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, it's easy to explain away through one of people's favorite / least favorite things. Which are, of course, alternate dimensions. It's just from an alternate dimension that runs faster with a Vakama that needed to send them on their way, and it just got switched over. I mean, I'm not saying I like that explanation, I'm just saying it is one. Because we do know alternate realities do work on different time schedules. I think the Kingdom universe... No, not the Kingdom. Was it the Kingdom? Hang on. Might have been.
I don't know.
Yeah, the Kingdom.
I don't know.
The Kingdom universe works at a different time, different speed. Okay, time moved faster.
Yeah. Sir LeJohn says the easiest answer, they misspoke. I agree. That's the easiest answer, is to just hand wave it. It's just kind of weird and a little annoying that it would need to be hand waved at all because it feels like a pointless, unnecessary problem and just another blemish on O5.
Yeah.
But in the bigger picture, Time Trap was very good. What I
Yes.
enjoy most about it is the concept of the Brotherhood of Makuta versus Dark Hunter war
Holy.
and seeing the origins of that.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, hang
Whoa.
on. I don't know what the A is. I don't. Wow. Okay, so we got a super chat from Xander Roberts, who donated a $159.99. First of all, Xander, thank you so very much. We are immensely grateful. I cannot express that enough. With this note,
Thank you.
so this is going to be all right. I falter with words, so here's a poem. I do my best to find the sets wherever I notice them. Though I fear I'm out of space, my room looks like a museum. Even so, I hope you know the joy you always bring to me. So without ado, from me to you, keep up the fine work, TTV. That is fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's incredible. Wow. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
That means a lot. We do our best to make people happy. You know, that's what it's all about. I'm glad that you get something out of the content.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it, because I mean, we do try and work hard. We still have things in the pipeline. We're always working on stuff. We've been, I've got another review coming out, and we are writing things, and we have a bunch of stuff happening. So we're really glad that people do enjoy it.
It's Star Destroyer. It's Star Destroyer in the patron chat who did it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm used to this dude being nice. He sent me a Hidden Side set one time. It was the Hidden Side Lighthouse.
Well, he was the gentleman who got all of them duplicated, right?
Yeah, it was like I sent him two of each one, which is probably like one of the funniest.
Also, to clarify, a lot of people are specifying it as Australian dollars.
Yeah.
So thank you for the clarification. But we really do sincerely appreciate it, especially since obviously YouTube is always a turbulent platform, and we definitely we still have costs. Like the message boards do cost to keep up, and then we have the patron server. But thankfully, the patrons help with the patron server, which is of course always appreciated.
I think we just got like April's money from YouTube. I think it's for the month of April, either April or March. I don't know how much it's delayed by.
I don't remember at this point.
It's one of our lowest ever for YouTube earnings.
That's kind of happened across the board though. So
no, I know.
Yeah, but well, the reason we say all this is, of course, to say we obviously greatly do appreciate it. It does help.
It helps a lot.
So thank you.
Where were we?
Time Trap. It is.
Yes.
It is
Brotherhood of Makuta versus Dark Hunter War. That's my favorite part.
Yes, I think it's really good to have that. I not only do I think that it's good to have that, I do like how Greg manages to transition Makuta from Legend of Metronui to Mask of Light with the battle versus the Shadowed One. Like his wings just get bye.
It's really good. The fact that both of them are changed by that battle. The Shadowed One becomes less of a powerful force as a result of it. He's weakened. Not that he's still not incredibly powerful, but less so. And then Makuta's wings. I just think it's good. Like, that's the point where Bionicle's story starts to diverge. I think in terms of how it presents itself is with the Dark Hunters. I guarantee a lot of people who don't like the direction Bionicle goes, you can probably trace their discontent back to the Dark Hunters. But for me, that's one of my favorite things, because as much as I like the mystical aspect of the original years, I find it a lot more interesting how Bionicle evolves from good guys versus bad guy to good guys versus bad guy versus other group of bad guys who are versus both sides. Like it's less good versus evil and more like how the world actually works sometimes, which is a great like free for all power grab. Basically, like there's so many different factions. It can get interesting seeing how they develop, and when it comes time to make alliances with one or the other. Like there's just a lot of good story potential that the Dark Hunters introduced, and I like them a lot.
Yeah,
So I suppose I must say thank you to O5 for that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the sets.
Yes. Okay, that's basically the last thing we have to talk about anyway.
The sets are going to be the finale, and I can summarize it quite succinctly. They're basically all, or they're mostly garbage, in my opinion. Like a lot of them. I think I can count 4 sets that I like, and one of them is Battle for Metru Nui.
System sets as well. Do I have pictures of the system sets?
It's not that important.
I don't have them, so I'll get them for later.
Sets I enjoy: Battle for Metru Nui, Norik, Iruni, and Kitongu. That is it.
So,
the Rahaga are horrible. The Horika are ugly. Rudaka is unique. Sidorak is janky. And the Vizorak are inventive, but on the whole, probably my least favorite Bionicle villains ever in terms of design.
I find myself in a constant state of unsurety. Unassurity? What's the right word for this? One day I'll learn how to pronounce that on the first try. I feel like it might be important. I'm constantly unsure about how I feel about a lot of the sets. Someone was saying earlier, I think it might have been Orkume, that everyone complains about clone sets, but everyone still buys them. And I want to dispel that notion a smidge, kind of. I think you will find a lot of people buying clone sets because a lot of Bionicle fans are collectionists. They are collectors, and they are completionists. So they want to have the whole package because all of them look really good together. Like, you still want to have them all in a group because that looks cool. Like, I know that was always, my stance on things. I really liked to see them all in one place. That was my whole goal. That being said, that doesn't mean, just because I'm buying them, doesn't mean I like the fact that they're all the same. Like, I'm getting the exact same experience, and I definitely think 2005 is the worst offender when it comes to clone sets. An argument could be made for the Borak. I think that's perfect. Excuse me again. Gosh dang. I think that's a perfectly reasonable argument to suggest that the Vaki and the Borak do it worse. However, I feel like 2005, we remember it worse because of its place. Like, it's like the Anika build. People got so fed up with the Anika build after 3 years of having it by 09, and it's not because the Anika build is inherently bad, it's just because by 09, we've had it for 3 years. By 2005, we've had clone sets for 4 years, I think. Like, we just keep on getting one set copy and pasted 5 times. You know?
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that, the Hordika are definitely not pretty looking sets. Like, you can find them cool. I still think, I like the Hordika, because I'm biased toward everything Bionicle, obviously. So I like them, but also, they're not one of my favorites to look at. I look at them, I see, okay, they're kind of janky. I see the Vizorak, and I actually do like the Vizorak. I have very few complaints with the Vizorak. I see the Rahaga, not the Rahaga, no, I was right, the Rahaga. And they're stiff, and they're difficult to move, and they're just kind of a pain. I do like the Toa Haga, though. I think they're really cool. I don't
like the Vizorak solely because there's only so much you can do to create interesting scenarios of like play and posing with spider creatures. They're like the Rahi if they didn't have functions and were also small. Like they have the one function, which is if you press on the head, their jaws will snap, but it'll often work in such a way to where one pincer will like slide underneath the other if you press it too hard.
They get
So
uneven.
yeah, they get uneven and the illusion is kind of ruined. And also, I mean, just comparing them to the other roster of villains, Borak, Rahi, Rakshi, Vaki, and especially the later characters, there's just a lot less you can do in the realm of posability because they have to be on all four legs to do anything. You can make them look up and you can make them look down, but that doesn't really do anything because they're already down low to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So they often just kind of sit there in like attack formation, and it's just not interesting to me. And in addition to that, I think the reason why I think the Visorak are my least favorite clone sets is because their weapons, that being their mandibles, are much less distinct of pieces from each other than the Borak shields were, or even the Vaki or Rakshi staffs were. Like if you put up the list of the Visorak pincers next to each other, I probably couldn't tell you which one was which off the top of my head.
Yeah, same. I also would be unable to very quickly
You
and
would
absolutely.
definitely be able to tell. You would
Sorry.
100% be able to tell because you've spent a lot of time with
I
it.
was trying to seem normal for a moment. Continue.
But you put the Boraks next to each other, and theirs are obviously different because they're color coded. Borak
Mm-hmm.
calls, they're not color coded, but they evoke the element. At least some
Yeah.
of them do.
Uh,
Um,
yeah. I would say most of them probably.
and then the Vaki and the Rakshi are less so because they're all silver, but they still have way more unique and defined shapes. And I mean, the weapons are the only things that separate the sets from each other. Otherwise, they literally are clones. So that's why the Visorak don't really have anything going for them. The Hordika are horrible too, but at the very least, they have some of the coolest weapons
Mm-hmm.
because they're all like they brought back the elemental vibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I get that. Now, as for the Titans, I was never super into Kitongu. Like, Kitongu is a good Titan, don't get me wrong, but it was never an aesthetic I was too thrilled about. Not to say anything bad on Kitongu, just different styles, different appeals. My favorite Titan from 2005 was Sidorak. I definitely liked him the most. I thought it was a really cool build. I thought it was a very imposing stature, and I thought that the head design was really clever. Rudaka is stylistically an offensive set. Not offensive in the build necessarily, but it just does not stylistically match anything else. It is a completely different style to everything else in Bionicle. And it just doesn't belong.
Nope.
Just straight, pure, and simple. Just does not fit in with anything else. It's not a good thing. If you really want to count Voprak, then Voprak, he takes over everything. I would say he's my favorite Titan, if you want to call him that. But I still see him as a combination model. So, which, in defense of that, he's a really good combination model. He's my favorite of the Titan, of the combo sets. So,
I'd probably like Sidorak more if I didn't absolutely detest his arms with the fiery passion of a million suns. Like both of them. Just one of them is literally a Technic beam, function or not. Like that's like Hero Factory Bruiser esque. And the other one is just like, I mean, at least that one has fingers, so I guess I can't complain too much. But it's a weird like Technic hodgepodge too. And then the head looks like one of those like droopy dogs where like their cheeks get really sunken low.
Oh, I see. Like a hound dog.
Like a hound dog. and it just does not work as
No,
well
I
for
kind of get
me.
it.
But you are right that he's probably the most solidly built. I liked Kitongu more because he struck to me a bit more like of a cohesive visual presence.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't really notice too many things about him that are off-putting, except, well, I guess again the arms.
Yeah,
They just had really
maybe.
bad arms, all of them, open sockets everywhere.
Yeah. Hey! Don't have a problem with that. How dare you critique them for something that
I hate
makes sense
open
to critique?
sockets.
Yeah. So,
So that's like, none of them impressed me. Four sets.
yeah. So, hopefully we can get. Well, I mean, we did get better ones. So.
Hopefully we can get better ones one day.
But yeah. So, man, I'm looking at this picture I have up. Really need to get a better one. Need to make a major improvement to this. Get all of them in there.
What picture?
The
Yeah,
from the recap finale.
nice.
I really should work on that. Maybe I will. Maybe I am.
Maybe,
Who knows?
maybe.
Hmm.
Who knows what Eljay's got in the pipeline?
Who knows? Anyway.
All right.
Also, real quick, Stuart. No. Sunny day would be a disaster. In fact, I was super happy that it was overcast, because then you get an even level of light. Like the rain, that's fine. Cleans everything. So.
Fair enough.
Bluefin Manta mentioned the system sets, which, fair enough, we should briefly talk about them. Not a great introduction to Bionicle system sets. Not a strong showing. Especially friggin' Vizirax Gate, the disaster that was.
It's so funny, dude.
I hate it.
The only one that works is Battle for Metronoi.
Yeah, that's a really good one. It's not only one of my favorite of the system sets, it's also the largest Bionicle set by technicality.
Yep.
No, not even technicality. It has the most parts. It has over 900 pieces. The one that comes closest to that is Scopio XV1.
I think the funniest looking set is probably the Vizirac battle ramp. I think if I were ever to buy a Bionicle set, ironically, it would probably be the battle ram. It, like, for ironic value, it's just so funny. It's like a sprawling giant war of figures. Just a bunch of figures with a Vizirac that's like in a box.
Mm-hmm.
It's like someone just put a box over him and just had his limbs like poke through it. It looks so dumb.
I
Like
don't know.
maddeningly stupid. I detest it.
I like it because I'm biased. It's nostalgic for me because it's one of two of the system sets I got. So,
There's even this concept art for it from the Biomedia project that has like a more organic shape, and it looks even funnier in the concept art.
Hey yo, what are you doing? You're burning my friends. Smack.
He's like, he is one with the box. The box is he.
Here, let me go ahead and bring that up on screen.
I don't know, man. It doesn't do it for me. I think maybe if that set was remade today, it would probably look a bit better. But using old school Lego architecture, which for stuff like that was very blocky, very not aesthetically pleasing, it would probably be a lot better. Unironically, the alternate build for that set is awesome. IMO.
I don't know. I didn't like it that much.
It works a lot better as just a playset because there's more to do.
I mean,
you have a fort to knock down, and you still keep the catapult, and it actually looks like a Vizirac instead of a box rack.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't remember saying that it was bad. Like, it was fine. I think when I briefly spoke about it.
Yeah.
So.
But that's basically that. That's all I have to say on the sets.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. They're all around. I just kind of find them stale. And I definitely would have rathered a little bit more variety that we ended up getting later on. We didn't get it until 2007, of course, but
Yeah.
so.
I have two more things I want to say because these don't have confidential markings, and also they're 16 years old, so I can safely post them.
Oh, yeah, I think you should be fine.
Prototypes were way better. Visorak Battle Ram prototype. Colors, maybe not so much, but it's a creature. It has shaping. It's got like some contours, maybe some better colors. It could have been great. And then I will never forgive them for the cardinal sin that happened when they robbed us of the Metru build Kitongu in the prototype, whatever that set is. Tower of Toa, I think.
Pretty sure this is Tower of Toa.
Thank you, Swert, for the bigger picture.
Well, this will do. But yeah, no, I agree. This would have been a much nicer Tower of Toa. Because, obviously, Keytorn's Toa Metru pieces are awesome. And we got some of them. We got his feet.
That's about it. Can we get Faber to save Mini Tongu? If Faber can make Mini Tongu the way we all deserve.
You know, I don't think we can, Mess. I'm sorry.
Hashtag Tonguvival. Yes, Sakota. You get it. Sakota gets it.
Okay. Great.
I'm sorry. I should stop talking about Faber. I'm being too mean.
Yeah.
I should be grateful that he's giving us anything at all.
Yeah, you're talking out of somewhere ain't your mouth, according to some disgruntled people.
I will never stop. Never stop. That's basically all I have to say about 05.
Yeah. I mean, it's a year with a lot of potential. It has a lot of good concepts, a lot of good ideas. It's just the execution of those concepts and ideas are
half-baked.
Yeah, they're half-baked, and there were some fundamental aspects that should have been different. So
it just ties into the bigger problem. Like, to fix it, you have to go so far back because it does feel like a year that was ad-libbed and was also used as a way to, like, fix some questionable story elements, like, introduced by the prequel movie. Like, how did Makuta get from 04 to 01 and stuff like that. So you would need to really go back to rework some things in order to make it work cohesively.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it could have been done better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree.
That's basically all I got. And now, let's hit us. Yeah, I can't even talk. Hit us with some questions. Give us some questions. YouTube chat, Discord chat. We shall answer some, and then we shall end.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. NG Clayton says, I'm anxious about the Lego Ideas Bionicle set. Me too, bud. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep our chins up.
I should probably let all you know. I did reach out on the Lego Ambassador Network about possibly getting an update, and I got no response. I got one reply from another ambassador essentially calling me impatient, despite the fact that I stressed several times saying I'm not being impatient, I'm just asking on behalf of my community. So that was really rude. Thanks, other ambassador. Real kind. Nice guy.
Epic. Let's see. SCOTUS asks opinions on Rotuka launchers. That's something I forgot to talk about, actually. That's fair. I kind of have to say this because I've been so negative. Rotukas are my favorite Bionicle launcher.
Really?
Indeed. So, the reason that is because I think they work the best for their intended purpose. Squid launchers and Kordak launchers, don't really work consistently. Disc launchers work, but they're nothing really to write home about in terms of functionality. They don't really go crazy far. Retraction launchers were a novel concept because they weren't really used for play. They capitalized on like the ripcord gimmick. And as a kid, there were a few things I enjoyed more than just revving that thing up and watching how high it flew in my living room and then trying to catch it as it fell. It worked very well. It got a lot of crazy height for a thing so small. And I was never really into shooting at my other sets and then trying to scramble to find the Zamor sphere that's rolled off under the couch somewhere. So these worked out pretty well for play, I think. They were cool.
Yeah, no, I like them. I don't have too much to add. I like the Retraction spinners. I had a blast playing with them when I was younger, and losing subsequently the Retraction in question. So yeah, very happy.
Swert, question before the board. Did you actually like 2005, or are you saying LJ liked it?
Yep,
He
I
likes
do.
everything. I didn't have a problem with it growing up. It's only with the benefit of hindsight that I'm like, wow, this wasn't that great. A YouTube question. Dr. Ongo can we all agree that Thornax launchers are the worst? Considering I just forgot they existed when I outlined the launchers. Yeah, I'll agree.
I don't know if I'll agree.
Not really. I like Thornax, but I did completely forget about them.
I like them because, yeah, Squid Launch, like GamerCore later just mentions squid launchers exist. Gosh dang the squid launchers. So.
Oh my god, I'm on fire. So I stopped buying sets after 2006, despite still keeping up with the story. Now that I'm back in, what are some of the latter sets you two would recommend picking up?
Love these questions. These are always my favorite.
I agree. That's an interesting predicament you're in. I mean, I'm gonna be real. As much as I love to say how much 06 is rocks, it is awesome and is better than 07. One of the ways it's not better than 07 is the sets. So
well,
you could pretty much buy anything from 07, I think, and you'd be cool.
Did he stop with 06? Like, did he buy any 06 sets, or did he buy none from 06 and it is a contender?
Good question. He says after 2006, but if you want to clarify,
yeah, clarify that, and then I can give you like a slew of recommendations per year.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, you basically can't go wrong with the Titans for any of the years post 06, except maybe Karzani. But like most of the Titans are generally well built. Axon, Brataka, Vizon, and Fenrik, Hydraxon, Maxilos, and Gadunka. Takanu 08 and the vehicles, they're all awesome. The smaller sets and the canister builds are a bit more hit or miss. I specify 07 because we have the gyms that are the Baraki.
Yeah. I've got good recommendations, I think.
Go ahead and give him. He says, I bought 06 sets. Yeah, the Titans and Toa mostly.
Okay, excellent. So for 2007, if you're on a budget, I'll bracket it like this. Don't bother with the Hydruka. Either of the two Matoran are fine. Basically, any Toa Mari is fine, though I would definitely recommend against... I would recommend more toward like Matoro, Huki, Holly if you're not using it for Mocking, and Vakama, or Jala. For the Baraki, I highly recommend basically all of them except for maybe Kalma. Not because Kalma is bad, but he's definitely, in my opinion, the least interesting. Titans, easy winners, Hydraxon and Spinax, Nocturne, and Gadunka. Just right out the gate.
I love Hydraxon and Spinax.
Or Maxilos and Spinax. Don't bother with Hydraxon for the time being.
He's cool.
I mean, yeah, he's cool, but if you're on a budget and you're only looking for a few, these are my off-the-top recommendations.
Prioritize Hydraxon.
Also,
get him first.
Alexander Fields asks why the hate for Karzani. Not hate, but he has a substantial amount of problems.
He's janky. The end.
Yeah. For 2008, for the Fantoka, My favorites are always, oh shoot, what's his name? Antraz and Kirox. Don't bother with any of the Matoran unless you're really looking to be a completionist and you really just want them together. For the Toa, of course, my favorite was always Liwa. I don't think you could go wrong with Pohatu either. He's kind of unique. Again, don't bother with Matoran. For the Mystica, Krika is arguably a must-have. The other two, you can go with either. For the Toa, any. It doesn't matter. Excuse me, I don't particularly recommend any of the Toa Mystica. For Titans, Toa Agnika is really good. Icarax never left much of an impression on me, though he's not bad either. For vehicles, oh god, this is a tough one because, like Mesa said, they're all really good. Axelara is supremely good, at least in my opinion. I also like the Jet Tracks, though if you're looking for more of a budget vehicle, then the Rocco is perfectly serviceable. Mezika is also good. Avoid Voltraz. And then Takanuva 08 is also good, though I don't know if I would necessarily go out of my way to recommend him strongly. 09. Any Agori is probably fine, though I tend to recommend against anyway. For the Glatorian, you have a lot of really good options. Kina is really good. I liked Gresh. Strack is really good. Malum. A Skrull is fine. Vorox. I definitely like Vorox. Tuma.
What he's saying is all of them, basically.
No, you notice I'm leaving some out. I would not necessarily recommend Tord, Akar, or Gelu, or Stronius, or Terex.
But why? I like all those builds.
I do too. They're just a little more of the plain ones. I would probably recommend away from Pharaoh and Skirmix just because of Pharaoh. Tuma is fine. For vehicles, it's hard to go wrong with the Thornatus. It's really hard to go wrong there. I tend to recommend against Scopio because while it is really cool, it's super massive and there's a lot of repetition in there, in that build, that you just might not find enjoyable. But it is a really good set regardless. And then it's also difficult to go wrong with the Caxium. The Caxium's really cool. Oh, and Matanui. Matanui, not the Titan. Forget the Titan. If you're going to bother with the Titan, just get it for the mask. And even then, good luck. But Toa Matanui's really cool. And then the stars, any. There you go.
All right.
I will be definitely looking into doing a video which is just recommendations for sets and just going over everything and just being like, hey, this is probably what I would recommend, or avoid this, or you can go either way. I think that would be really good to have.
Sounds like a good idea.
It'd be good for the community to have a kind of something like that.
Let's see. There were more questions. Sir Perry, how would you react if Faber gives you a candy bar or two? And that was the whole Biogin too, dude. At this point, I'd be happy if Faber gave us anything. I'll take freaking candy bar. At this point, it would be better than ethereal. That's true. It would have to be pure chocolate.
Yeah.
Sir Lojon, which of the 05 subplots were your favorites? Saving the Rahi, Broken Vaki, etc. None.
Yeah, none of them stick out to me. I barely even remember the Broken Vaki.
Star Destroyer, how can the Hordika be improved? Making the masks compatible with standard heads, fuller builds. Regular masks, I think, would be a good place to start. You can make animalistic or odd or unnatural looking masks without them basically not being masks. Case in point, 06. Like the Anika masks are freaky. Like those could be Hordika masks in and of themselves. Like, they look unnatural. They look mutated. You don't have to completely abandon making masks, period. Their builds, I think, are just generally odd. The legs are very gappy. They're very awkward. They have a pre-bent kind of an angling, which doesn't really work. The gear function basically doesn't exist. It's very, very superfluous and very tacked on. Either integrate it or scrap it. And the asymmetrical limbs. I get that that's intended to like make their posture like animalistic, but I hate it and it looks ugly, and get rid of it. So basically what I'm saying is all those things that make the Hordika, yeah, don't have them. So at that point, what I'm basically saying is I just don't want the Hordika, and that is correct. I do not want the Hordika.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's see. Scrolling through patron chat. Sir Perry, I have a legit question. Where does the money from super chats go? Few different places, and this goes for just in general. Number one, message boards. Message boards are very expensive.
They are definitely our highest.
They are our highest money sink. They were not always that way. They used to be much more affordable, but as they grew, they started to have errors and they started to like hemorrhage. And even now we have to like semi-regularly upgrade them because they run into all sorts of bugs. Namely, recently, like we haven't been able to get emails to go out to new users. We're having issues with registrations. So in order to have the message boards function even relatively well, it's a massive money sink.
Yeah, it's definitely our most expensive. It is our highest cost expenditure every month.
Yeah. Next up after that is we do have Dropbox, which we use to transfer files between us for video editing purposes. We have the Minecraft server, which, again, in order to upgrade it to make it not lag, which all of you will remember that very well, that had to be upgraded, and now that's a financial thing every month. And then from that point on, it basically goes into savings.
Yeah, basically break in case of emergency,
which has been known to happen more than a few times.
Mm-hmm. So, there's a question earlier, from Wombat Combat. I want to say Pictures, but I keep getting it wrong. I've voiced a character in a series, and I can't even get his name right. I'm sorry, Connor. I'm sorry. And I haven't forgotten about the other lines. It's just been busy. Connor does ask, though, updates on the Hellrix contest. So we mentioned that at the... Okay, it is Pictures. Gosh dang it. We mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Contest is going really, really well. Like, everyone was super worried about how it was going to go. Everyone was working it up in their mind that it was going to be this disaster. It was going to be this angry cesspool of fighting. And it kind of was before they started. And then they started, and it's been great. It's been awesome. We have a little over 70 entries right now. The contest ends in about 4 days. Everyone has been great. We have only had 2 entries disqualified, and that's because they did not provide the appropriate images that we request per the rules in our specified amount of time, which is 3 days. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's not like we just let them do that. Like, I would remind them, hey, you need to add these images and then we can accept it. I've been going through every one. If someone doesn't have something, it's not like they're immediately DQ'd. More entries, the better. And so, yeah, overall, it's been fantastic. Like, we have our favorites. We have ones that we really like. And it's been very interesting to see everything. Everyone's commenting on everyone else's entries saying, oh, I really like that. I really like that. Everyone's been fantastic. Even people outside of the contest have been making mocks. Obviously, I would like them to enter them. I think that there is no harm in it. But if they don't, that's fine. They're still making mocks. They're still participating in a community event. They're still being active. And it's great. That was the whole point. And it's really rejuvenized portions of the community. And I'm very content with how things are going right now.
Yeah, most definitely. It has It's definitely outstripped my expectations. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very happy with how things are going.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's still folks that are trepidatious about it, and they're still worried about certain things, like how are the polls going to be handled. We're working on it. How is the art portion going to be handled? Don't worry about it. We're working on it. Keep asking questions. We're still looking into things. We're still discussing it. There's a lot to get squared away. It's just, there's just a lot to do. So let's get through this portion first, which is going very well. And I feel like once this contest is over and everyone has seen the process and seen how it goes, people are going to start worrying a lot less, and we're going to see even more people participating because they looked at the first one and went, okay, that wasn't that bad.
Exactly. Bionicle Lives has a comment, not necessarily a question, but I want to read it from YouTube. This last episode, Meso suggested that the final battle should have included the Nuva going to take down Pterodax from inside. Would have been neat if they went to Destral to use the virus he made against him. They would have been faced with the morality of using the virus he developed to finally down him. That is excellent.
Yeah, I like
I would
that.
have been very much down for that. The parallelism of basically him getting Matanui'd. Now, that doesn't remove him from the story entirely because he could always wake up, but c'est la vie.
Yeah.
What else? We're nearing the end. We're gonna do a few more. Swert, how would you have done 2005 villain sets if not spiders? I don't know. I mean, it's not like I have anything against spiders on principle. I just don't find them as interesting for posability reasons. I like the idea of having waves of animals. I like the Rahi. I guess how I would have done it would have been more than one animal. I guess would be my preference, like Rahi 2, essentially. Because I would not have had an issue if one of them was a spider. Just maybe not all of them, or maybe have different designs. Maybe the heads have different, or I know they do have different patterns, but maybe more distinct patterning instead of just one color. Maybe the heads aren't one giant piece. Maybe they're a bit more intricate. Maybe some have spikes on their back. Or maybe some have different feet pieces. Basically, not clones. Gresh 113, so 05 should have been HF 3.0. I mean, yes. More or less. Like it's the difference between having a Visorak army or like a Rahi army that maybe consists of some Visorak, which would have been impractical for that era, which had clone builds. So, not too much you can do there.
Yeah.
How would you feel as Toa of Plastic? How would you feel about a G3 based around brick-built action figures with mixel joints? So we've talked about this in the past when we've talked about how we would like System Bionicle done. It is my preference that if we were to get Bionicle as a system theme, I would prefer minifigures. Simply because I have seen how cool minifigures can be with Bionicle styling. However, there are a lot of people who really like the concept of mixel jointed figures, and there have been some really cool mocks and builds of Bionicle characters using mixel joints for articulation, and it works. It works perfectly fine. I've seen so many cool things, both on a large scale to mimic Construction as we know it, and on more of a micro scale. And it's cool. The problem is mixel joints, as they are right now, would not be able to. They wouldn't be able to evoke the same kind of Bionicle that we are used to. They would not be able to achieve the same kind of looks. Like, case in point, very recently they made the Lego Superheroes mechs. They had the Thanos mech, the Iron Man mech, and the Spider-Man mech. And these were kind of an evolution, the next evolution of what they've been doing for a few years now, working on, mixel joint style figures. And most people seem to hate them, but I really like them. I think they're a step in the right direction for this kind of a system. They are rough. They do look kind of bootleg, but they're trying a bit harder with shaping. They're trying a bit harder to have proper articulation and some contours instead of just let's pile bricks on top of each other and have those be the limbs. Because as Sakota just demonstrates with what he just posted in the chat, which LJ, if you wouldn't mind throwing that up on the screen, I want
Certainly.
people to see that Kikanala. That's one of Sakota's Kikanalo. That's a Kikanalo mock by Sakota using mixel joints. The system would be basically perfect for Rahi. We did a contest a while back that was a BIONICLE contest, and the amount of people that entered cool Rahi builds using mixel joints were immense.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a challenge. People like that is easily done. People who are creative, who can do cool stuff. The problem comes from the characters. If you want to have BIONICLE characters as we know them be represented in these builds, the system is not there yet. The mechs are inching their way closer to being able to do it, but they're not there yet. You need more dedicated pieces for such a thing to ever work. You need dedicated heads that aren't tiny little minifigure heads. You need dedicated hands that aren't giant Exoforce arm monster hands. And you need some unique pieces that can contour around the mixel joints to form shapes instead of what a lot of these end up being for the limbs, which is just put a brick on top of the joint and then a brick on the other side of the joint, and then there you go. But it can be done. Like Sakota's done tons of them. He did a Nadiki, which he posted too in the patron chat. Like, it is doable. Could Lego do it in Lego produced sets with their stability concerns in the same way that mockists can do it, where they don't really have to worry about that? That's the question I'm not so sure about.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly don't know.
The short answer is I'm down for it. I'm not against it per se. I just would maybe prefer minifigures for characters and mixel joints for Rahi.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the best thing. Gear Bricks. Assuming it gets made, what's the point of Sakota's project if Lego's not going to do anything aside from acknowledge BIONICLE's 20th anniversary? Not saying it isn't a bad build, because I quite like it. Sakota himself answered it. He said it reminds Lego that we're still here, whether they accept it or not. And Gearbricks was like, thanks. So from Sakota, the creator's perspective, it's been answered. My perspective is it's kind of inverse to what Sakota's saying, but like in a way it kind of makes sense, because he's right. The whole purpose of using Lego Ideas as a platform is to get Lego to recognize, blank, to be like, hey, if you get 10,000 votes there, you'll see there's interest in something, and then they'll consider whether or not to make it a set or not. But I view it as more of the community saying to Lego, hey, you guys aren't doing anything with the property right now, but it's still worth celebrating. It's a 20th anniversary set. It's meant to be commemorative. It's meant to celebrate. Even if it doesn't get approved, the mock still stands as a testament to old BIONICLE merging with the modern day and a celebration of everything that means. And we as a community can look to it and be like, yeah, BIONICLE's awesome. I love this. This is nostalgic. The purpose of presenting it to Lego Ideas is, in simple forms, it'd just be cool to get another BIONICLE set. And in larger forms, like you said, it's more of a statement. And then if you extrapolate it even further, it could be used as a way for Lego to say, hey, maybe there's a way BIONICLE could survive in other means. But I don't want to get too carried away with that, because I'm not necessarily all about the bring back BIONICLE train. as has been said before. But a lot of people say System Bionicle would never work, and System Bionicle is a betrayal. But yeah, it was not. It would not be. And Sakota's project proves as much. You can have the Bionicle aesthetic, you can have Bionicle characters and Bionicle landmarks in system form. I'm not saying everybody who voted for it necessarily would want Bionicle back as a system theme. That's a generalization I'm not prepared to make. Maybe some people just voted for it to support. Maybe some people voted for it to send a message to Lego. Or maybe they just want the one single commemorative set. But for me, plain and simple, I'd be down with Bionicle to come back as a minifigure theme. And the only way to show Lego in a constructive way that doesn't involve a million petitions or screaming or ranting at their customer service hotlines is through their platform, on their rules, speaking with our vote and our wallets, which is what it's all about.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't add anything more to that.
All right. I'm going to do 2 more questions. Number 1 from Robo Mike says, will you guys do a playthrough of Quest for Motonui when it comes out? Absolutely.
Yeah,
that will definitely happen.
Yeah.
And then the last question. I'll do 2 more questions. Also from Robo Mike, have either of you seen Tokan's 2 awesome Bionicle vids on YouTube? Island of Doom, The Arrival, and City of the Lost, Downfall. Yes.
Yep.
And then Gear Bricks, do you think CCBS would be introduced during G1's run had it lasted through 2011 when Hero Factory got it, or would it have been sooner? I could have sworn I answered this last week. I think I did.
I don't
Maybe
remember.
from you or somebody else. In short, no. CCBS was created solely as a response to Bionicle. I don't think it would have ever shown up in Bionicle, because Bionicle's aesthetic and parts catalog was too ingrained at that point. CCBS was created to be the Bionicle successor. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it was an answer to a problem.
Yeah. Problem, quote unquote.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It was a.
I know
it was a response to an issue Lego perceived.
Yep.
So there we go. Real quick, I do have this question to ask or answer. Roy Batalana asked, are the next remixed reviews going to be monthly, or are you guys going to pool the rest of the combo models in the one video? They will be monthly. So.
Nice. All right. I think that is it. I think we are done.
Yeah.
It is the end.
Huh. That was good. That was a good time.
It was good. I like that a lot.
Now we're going to have to figure out what to do next time.
Yeah, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But either way, I thank you all for listening to this episode today. I always like just doing an in-depth breakdown of the individual years. Some years have more to talk about than others, but I figure at some point we'll get around to talking about most of them on an individual basis.
Yeah.
But for now, LJ, hit us with the plugs.
All right. So, if you're interested, head on over to the TTV message boards at board.ttvchannel.com. You have to be 13 years or older and follow our rules. Please read them. You can join in all the fun. Lego author Greg Farshty is there answering your questions. Sometimes he is there, though. And currently, we are just about to wrap up the entry period for the first Bionicle canonization contest for Toa Helrix. Ends on the 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Then, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/thetv channel. Low as $1 a month, you can join our Patreon Discord server, as well as our Minecraft server, where you can explore the islands of Motonui and Voyanui, with more to come. And then head on over to Twitter at the TTV channel. I think, yeah, twitter.com/the TTV channel, at Mesonak and at the Eljay Johnson, JWJNSEN. Also, BioCup Round 2 began. I believe it began on the 13th, and I have just been too busy to make a video for it. But I'm going to. So Round 1 saw their winners. Really good stuff. Check that out. BioCup 2020. And that's about it.
Very nice, very nice. Well, I thank all of you for listening to today's episode. Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below. So if you liked it, leave a like if you did, dislike if you didn't. And yeah.
That's it.
That was all. That's it.
Tell me to hit the music anytime.
Hit the music. All right. Thank y'all for listening. I'm Meso.
I'm Eljay.
And streaming to you from a golden beach, this was Nack and Jay.